Welcome back to another edition of the Down and Back Cornhole Podcast. As you can see, I'm here and I got to point the right way. He's over that way. Get to him in a second here. I was given a message about him. Actually, I was given a novel about him. A couple things that I was told about this guest stands head and shoulders above so many, not only being top soon to be pro, but is a genuine pro right now, is what I was told. Because the way you throw, you are a pro guy and a pro thrower. We have Mr. Sensei, as you can see, Shawn Farrell. Shane, how you doing?
All right.
I even
Shawn,
said it wrong.
hey, right. That's all right. You got the sensei part, so that's fine.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm guessing you're probably ready for like a month nap.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time it is. It's tough. It's been tough. 9-hour time differences and flying 10,000 miles in a few short days worth of time. But it's all for cornhole, so it's worth it.
Well, August was. I think all you did in August was just play cornhole.
Yes, travel and play cornhole.
Because you were the U.S. Nationals, the World Finals.
Yep.
Then you took a weekend off.
Yep.
And then you went across to Europe, then to California. So it's
all over.
Would kill me.
Well, my wife actually pushes me to do it and supports me on it, so I'm lucky in that way.
I think my wife would like me out of the house, but just not spending that much money for cornhole. But so to get a bit, because I know people like you're like an eye magnet with the big yellow Cobra Kai stuff. So how did you get into cornhole?
So I camp at a campground called Camp Obika. It's in Copake, New York, and we go there every weekend. We're hanging out, and they do this blind draw. Somebody who plays in the ACO at the time, this is 2 years ago, did a $5 blind draw, and so I said, "Hey, we got nothing to do. There's a bunch of us. Let's go down. We'll play this cornhole game." And so because I was a basketball player. I threw overhand. And so I'm warming up, just kind of, a little game. And the guy comes up and says, "Oh, you can't throw overhand." And I'm like, it's not like an ACO event. It's like a $5 blind draw. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, no, he was adamant. Can't throw overhand. So I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to throw underhand. I'm really bad. And it kind of ticked me off a little bit. So I decided that I was going to get really good at this game and beat him. And so I spent like the next month or two just getting good and getting better, like just practicing in my driveway, getting better. And so we played again. And then, I got to the point where I could beat him. And then we were all having fun doing it every night, and we play a lot at camp. And the Netflix series Cobra Kai was coming out. So we were talking about it and we were joking and saying sweep the leg and body bag. And we were using all those terms. And I said, it'd be funny if we were Cobra Kai Cornhole. And so I kind of just ran with it. And then I never thought that it would get as big as it is now. It's like huge. We have 3 chapters and we're getting up to like 80 members. And, we sponsored events, Northeast conferences. We sponsored the Northeast Conference Top 100 event. We sponsor some of these kids to go around and get in all these tournaments and get exposure and travel. And so it's grown to a really big group and organization, and I'm proud of it.
Well, you answered one of my next questions was, did you have a tie to karate before Cobra Kai came out?
No, nope, I did not. We just thought it would be funny, and so we were like, oh, we'll get T-shirts, it'll be funny, and then people were drawn to it, and then the more we did it, we were just in it now. So it's like, all right, let's just blow it up and go full tilt with it, and this is where it's gone to.
Well, and like I see it, like I said, I see it like almost everywhere now. Almost every kind of post, anything from the Northeast, I get to watch. There is some of your members are there playing, and you got some pretty good players as well too that you guys are with.
Yeah, right now we have 3 pro players. Mark Burgess, Steve DeReike, and Zach Stickney. We have a PDC player in Nick Patuski, and if my application is approved, then we would have a fifth pro player.
Well, we're going to get to you in a minute here, but
Mm-hmm.
Nick, like we kind of talked off air here, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of heard the name had mentioned one or two times, and all of a sudden you brought him up to Niagara here to the Open up here, and there was so many people that came over to me and said, "You got to go check this kid out. You got to go check this kid out." And Nick was just throwing lights out while he was up here.
Yeah, he's a top notch. He's not only is he pro, like he's, he will compete with the best of them. I mean, you're going to see him. He can. He's got all the shots. He's got all the plus under pressure. He still performs. So you're going to see him. Unfortunately, he's going to have to fight every week in PDC just to get the shot in each national. But I think he's going to do it every week, and I think you're going to see him on those broadcasts.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think he's just got the pro attitude as well. Just the way he carries himself while he's at the events. He's not I don't want to say the big flashy guy, but he just carries himself like a pro, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is being able to still pull off those shots when there's cameras, when there's people, when there's a lot of pressure on it. And I've been there. He can do it. He absolutely can do it, and he's going to, for sure.
Exactly. And now to get back to you, a thing with Niagara that we were talking about last night with Matt Plow, your throwing style, because Matt's got a throwing style that no one else throws like, and you and Matt had lined up on the boards together. You throw left-handed, he throws right-handed, but you guys have got like the exact same style of throw. It was actually kind of funny to watch. He was like, it still kind of had him rattled here even last night talking about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I got it. Like I said, I started overhand. First thing I did was I went on YouTube and I tried the traditional way, and I got okay with it. I could do it, but anytime like I needed a intricate push, or I needed to do something that took a little bit more accuracy, I kept finding myself doing that frisbee style to pull it off. And I at one point I just said, well, if that's how I'm more accurate, then I should just shoot this way all the time and perfect it this way. And so that's what I did. And, it's been working for me. I continue to, I did worry about plateauing, with that style, but I'm able to use that same style to airmail. I'm use the same style to cut shot. So the only thing so far that I can tell that it hinders me from is the roll shot, because you have to come back and you have to do that open the doorknob style to get that roll bag effectively, and I can't do that, so I figure I'll just try harder and get my airmail better.
I try that with a roll shot as well, but mine just magically appears. It's not that I'm trying to do it; it's just the roll will just
and some people have a natural front dip on their bag, and so they'll get it sometimes, or so because there's two ways to do it. One's a backloaded, which is the doorknob, and the other way is if someone has a natural front dipping, then that'll give them a roll as well.
Yeah. So getting into the one reason why I really wanted you to have you on the show here is, for me, we've seen Chris Tornatola, the Tornado, get the Iron Man. I think for me, you are the Iron Man because you are the only American player to play in 3 Opens in 3 different countries, which it's not. Well, there's been 2 Canadians do it, being Bernie Portalesi and Rick Wiersma, and then 2 ACL directors that have done that feat, being Todd Kazicki and then that guy that really doesn't do much, Stacy Moore, I think, right? So.
Well,
so there's just the 5 of you that have been to that can say that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. Yep. I just like to do it. I know they're talking about doing an Australia one too, and so I like traveling for it. I like spreading the sport of cornhole. And like when we were in Amsterdam, a lot of the European players came up to us. They wanted to have pictures. They wanted to see us throw. They wanted to get tips. And for me, I like explaining, you should have a flat bag and training tips, because a lot of these guys, they just go, all they do is throw the ball or throw the bag straight in, and that's all they practice. And I'm like, that's great, and you got to start somewhere, and that's good, but what happens when there's a blocker?
Mm-hmm.
Now what do you do? you know. And before you learn how to throw a blocker, you got to learn how to get around a blocker. And so your training should be someone should be just setting a blocker for you, and you should be doing nothing but how am I going to get around that or deal with this? And that's it. You for the next 45 minutes, that's what I deal with is how I get around this blocker. And once you get good at that, then you learn blocking. So you have somebody help you, you just block, landing a block every time perfectly. And so you need all those things, but everybody wants to practice just going straight in.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that COVID brought so many people to cornhole, but it brought them in the deck around the kind of virtual stuff where it was you had a clean board all the time. Where for me, those being calling live feed games, most boring games to call in the world when it's just bag in, bag in. You
Yeah.
like that? You almost need that chess game where you put the blocker up. You got to try and play with it because there's some guys that excel at that part of the game.
Oh, for me, I play chess. This game is chess to me. I know what's going on the board. I'm analyzing the person I'm playing with. I'm analyzing how I want to either whether I want to block, whether I want to back block, all those things are going through my mind. I absolutely play chess, and I did have a blind draw partner who was a French guy. He was good. He wasn't as good as Mathau, or I think that's what his name is,
Yeah.
but he was a very solid player. And I was, we got second in the swap. And I was explaining, I'd be like explaining like, yeah, I want you to put this bag here, and that's why. And he actually liked that I was teaching this chess part of it, and we were winning. It's like, hey, we got two on that. Because he can't push through that. And you're already ahead. You take your 2 points, you send it back to me. We're in good shape.
No, exactly. Yeah, and I think just to kind of step back to the Open in Niagara is that for us, the Canadian players, most of us have played live a lot. Not many other players that had been able to have a big event or go to that big of an event. So, what was your thoughts on back in almost 6 months now? But thoughts on that Niagara event as a first event just outside the U.S. for the ACL?
I thought it was really good. I thought there was a lot of interest. There was a lot of good cornhole players there. Um, I thought it was run well. Everything seemed to go through well. Broadcasts, everything. So I thought it went well. I mean, it's not as large as a U.S. Open,
Yeah.
but it seemed to be run fine and went well, and everybody seemed to have a good time.
Well, and the thing for us up here was that's the first time we've had more than a 1 day event. So there was a lot of people that weren't prepared for having throwing the 3 days. Like most of the people in the U.S. are used to that's just a regular weekend, right? But it's
Yeah.
up here. It's not just a step up to the bag. You've actually got, and it's why I keep saying that most of the pros are former sports or have played other sports because they're used to that grind of really having to do a lot on a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but then fast forward then to the Open in Europe, different style there. Like we talked about that, they're not played many live events. They've both been mostly the deck round, so they're not really used to that whole game. What was your thought on most of the players over there? Because I know they had about 5 or 6 top players being Matthew and Kelly Atkinson and Bruno and Gunny from Germany, but there was probably a lot of other players that was their first time playing against other people.
Yeah. The people you mentioned, good cornhole players. The U.S. pros that went there, obviously top tier. It did dip down quite a bit, and I think it's like I said, it's just I think they're just behind because it hasn't blown up there yet. I have the advantage of having it blow up,
Yep.
right around 2 years ago. And so I got to play against these top people. I've got to have that competition. And so I need that. I think this was good because I think these people went there, they saw this, they saw the way we throw, they got really excited, and they bought real good boards from there, they bought bags, they wanted to learn everything. So I think it's going to grow, and I think that they're going to keep getting better and better, and they're going to compete with us, and France didn't do a bad job. I mean, they had some players, and like they stole one of the games from us and made it a little difficult. And they went through the European side pretty well. So they're not that far behind. I just think they need more competition and more opens and more that kind of knowing that this person next to you can beat you. It's like I think that Mathau guy
Yeah.
doesn't. I believe he destroys everybody all the time over there, and so he doesn't have that pressure of, well, this guy's going to match me every time. And so he doesn't get that pressure that I do all the time. When I play Nick, I got to throw them all in. Yep. When I play all these other pros, I got to throw them all in. And I've got to make these shots every time, that pressure. And I don't think he's used to that yet. And I think if he gets that, he'll be really dangerous.
Well, and like we had talked about kind of last week when we were first talking about doing the show, is that was my disappointing thing, is seeing the live feeds and seeing the comments from some of the people that, these guys aren't pros. Well, actually they kind of are. It's just, it's for me, I equate it to hockey. Us Canadians up here, we're like, nobody can touch us, right? But other countries are starting to slowly kind of creep up because, cornhole in the States has been around for, finals have been going on for like 14, 15 years. Canada here, we're about like 5 years into this whole thing. It just started during COVID over in Europe. So it's, you got to give those people time to really.
Yeah, they need the time. Yeah. And hopefully because again, I can't stress it enough. You can't get good if you don't have people to play against and good people to play against. If you don't have leagues with people who show up and being able to fire that competition, you can't get good. I'm good because there was a league here and run by good people, and we have good players, and there's always people, and we have top-notch people in there, and so that has fueled me to where I am. I mean, if that didn't exist, I'm not here right now. I mean, because I wouldn't just play in the driveway all the time if there weren't these things to go to and these things to do.
Exactly, yeah. And I've heard that the guys from Germany were really pushing to have the next Open in Germany because there it kind of, well, I guess they were lucky that they've been out, the U.S. Air Force Base there, so there's got a lot of Americans that are playing cornhole, and I know I've seen a couple of things on Facebook where they're looking for people to play with them over there. So I think Germany is probably one of your next big hotbeds in Europe.
Yeah, they did have some good players. They weren't quite on the level with France, but they did have some very good players. And again, I think it's just because they were very good straight down the middle. And if we're going to play bag for bag, then sure, that they could probably hang with any of us if you're doing bag for bag. But the minute I know that that's what you're going to do, I'm going to see if you can do anything else. So immediately I'm going to put up a block and see if you can do anything else. And if you can't, it's going to be a long day for you. So I think they just need to learn that next step. So they've perfected straight in. They need to go to the next level and move those. And now they know that, right? So they were like, okay, we got that. We're going to go there. I can do 9 out of 10. I can do it. And then, they did a few and I put up a block and they were like, oh, so, exactly, yeah. But now they know. So I guarantee you, if they're like me, they're sitting in their driveway or wherever right now, learning how to get around that stuff.
Well, exactly, yeah. And it's just, and for me, the other thing is just the whole technique of throwing and the different shots where you have to put like the different angles or the different, well, even for them, even getting used to different bags, whether it being a faster bag or a slower bag, that it's all that the little finite stuff in this game that we think the game is just easy, but it's way harder than what it looks.
And they have another disadvantage that we don't have is bags, like getting bags. Yeah. Like they have very few bags that they can choose from. So like, they don't really have Ultra out there. I know they brought some so that people can have them, but they were telling me that they have a real problem with getting bags and, all the, because here, God, in America, there's like 15,000 different bags you could get in there, and it'd be to you in 2 days, and they don't have that luxury. And if they do get something from here, it's 10 times more expensive. Yeah. So it's not like you can be like, hey, I'd like to try this Widow B. It cost them a fortune to know that, and then find out that they didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly like we were even looking at that being just even the cost of boards, having those ACL boards come up because, there's you see the price online. on the ACL website, and then we have them up here with CSC, and it's we're almost like $150 more. And then I was looking at I think the ACL Europe boards, if we were to get them, it was going to cost almost $700 for
Wow.
a set of boards, right? Which,
Yeah.
because you got to think that shipping, even the whole shipping from the States to Canada is a killer as well.
Is it? Yeah.
So,
I actually, the guy that I work with at Ultra, because I play for Team Ultra, he was saying that they don't ship to Canada right now. Because I was like, oh, hey, I'm going to go on. I was going on Wicked Cornhole and I was going on yours, and I always try to find out what they'd like me to promote and stuff like that. And he's like, well, we don't really ship to Canada. And I went, oh, that's not good.
well, I want to say Cornhole Supplies Canada was getting Ultra bags through the ACL coming up and shipping it through that way. So it's so we had them that way. So we do have Ultra throwers up here in Canada, which I used. Is it the Psycho X?
Yep.
I used them for the first time on the weekend in a tournament outside, and oh my gosh, I couldn't keep that on the board. It was such a fast bag. I couldn't keep
Yes.
that on
Yeah,
the
the
board.
Psycho X is a faster. My bag of choice is the Viper R, which is their carpet bag. So that's my choice. That's my go-to bag. Is the Viper R, which it just came out like it's probably like 4 months ago now. They came out with the Widow R first. They didn't really have carpet bags.
Mhm.
And so they came out with the Widow R, and then they came out with the Viper R. Viper R is a little more hole friendly, so I like that. I don't like them getting stuck up. So that's what I won the Europe Open with, is the Viper R. But I know Dion uses the Octane,
Yeah.
and he was shooting really well. He's a really good competitor. He's a really great guy, and I laugh because you don't normally, especially a lot of people. If you're beating them, they're not very happy with you,
Yeah.
and they're not,
Yeah.
And like I had gone out to a very big lead on them, and then I had a bad round where I think I gave up 4 or something like that, and I kind of shook my head, and he's just like, he's like, oh no, it's a bad round. You get it right back together. He's like, he's like trying to like cheer me up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, it's just weird to me to be like, because most people are like, well, cool, sweet, he's slipping up. I
Yeah.
got my shot now. I'm gonna go. And he was like, no, yeah. He's like, yeah, you'll get it right back. You're good. You'll get it together. And I just thought that was crazy
Oh,
for him to be like that.
but yeah, Dion. I don't want to say he's an odd duck, but he's kind of he's a very happy guy.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll put it that way.
He was happy, and he even when I won, he's like, ah, sweet. And then he rooted for me to win it all. So he's like, well, at least if I lose to you, then I lost to the champ. So I was like, all right, I'll see what I can do.
Well, see, Dion's another guy that he's only been playing for a couple of years, right? So
Yeah.
he and with being in Newfoundland, there's just him and Albert that are the 2 top guys there. So they're almost, I don't want to say they're like Europe, but they're almost like Europe, where they don't have a lot of high end talent that they're playing against. So it's just them two, and they're still learning all the little nuances with the game.
Yeah. But he's a very good thrower, and I know I watched him on a few of the doubles as well. He was shooting really good against the pros that were there. So he has a very good push shot. And he's pretty steady. He's consistent, I guess is how it should go.
No, so you did mention you get your win. So we can't end this here without talking about the big win being the first one of the first champions for Europe.
Yeah, first ever ACL Europe Open singles champ. It was a great experience, and then of course the same thing when they say like, oh well, some of the Europeans aren't as good and this and that. It's like, well, French dude was pretty good. He took out Josh Thielen, who's an ACL pro. He took out Justin Stranger on the ESPN Teams event. So he, and I had to play him twice because he made it up through to the loser bracket finals, and I had to beat Justin Stranger twice in the king seed. He was in the king seed. I had to hit him. I had to beat him twice, and he's a top tier, ACL pro. So it wasn't easy. I happened to play one of my best games on the right day. It was a great weekend. I mean, I got to play on ESPN and some must-win games with lights and jumbotrons and Stacey Moore on the call and the crowd, and so it was a great time and great experience.
Well, exactly, and I like, I always say to people that you can play live on your phone and having people watch you, but that extra little pressure of just a couple lights and a little more people watching in the stands, that's just, I even felt it doing announcing up here in Niagara on ESPN, but it's just that playing has just got to be even more intense.
Yeah, and they were a must-win game. Okay, so the first one was the North American Finals, right? And Justin loses his first game, and I'm like, all right, well, now I have to win.
Yeah.
There's a guy with a camera who walks back and forth, and once in a while you're shooting, stands and puts the camera right behind the board, like he's holding it within 3 inches behind the board as you're trying to shoot onto that board. And I'm like, man, I got to win this game. And there's people, and they're, the French, which they were rooting for their teammate to win, because if they win that game, they win. It doesn't even matter what the doubles happens. And so, I get through that one, and then I'm like, okay, we're going to France. Justin's got this. He'll have it. And then he proceeds not to win that game, and now I'm really sweating it, and I'm talking to Josh, I'm like, oh man, I gotta go do this again under pressure, and but luckily I pulled it off, and then they got their doubles win and we won it. So in the end, it was the best way for me, because had Justin won both of his first games, and they would have won their doubles games, and I would have just been the non-pro on the team who just skated through and got the victory. You know what I mean? But the fact that he lost and I had to win both my games makes me feel like, I had to. I earned it.
Well, exactly, and I think anyone who's ever watched you play knows that you have earned it. But still, to go back with that guy standing behind I kept seeing that guy standing behind the board with the camera. I'm like, if anyone throws a long airmail that misses the board, that camera's done.
Yeah. And you could hear him sliding so when he'd walk back and forth, he has this long cable, and you could hear it sliding back and forth as you're trying to play. It was distraction, but you know what? If you're going to play in the pro level, then you just gotta suck it up and you gotta figure it out. So that's how I took it, and that's how I figured I had to do it.
Well, exactly, and in talking to everyone that I've talked to, is that they all think that you should be a pro now, just with your commitment to the game and the way you play. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that Trey, if you're watching, give it to him. He needs it. So it's ever. So we talk sponsors. You've got all the Ultra gear on there.
Yeah.
What other sponsors do you have that need the shout out?
Well, I mean, my biggest sponsor is my wife. Yeah, she makes it happen. Most of the stuff is bankrolled out of ourselves for all this traveling and stuff. Plus we help a lot of these kids and stuff. I haven't really, because I'm not a pro, I haven't put myself out there to get sponsors. I mean, Ultra came to me, because I was throwing their bags, and they're a great company, and I love their bags. But I haven't felt like, if I get my pro card, then I'll go out into these places like, hey, I'm going to be playing pro, and I'd like you to sponsor me and get your product out there. Cobra Kai Cornhole itself gets 6,000 hits on Facebook a month, of cornhole people. So if I can find people who are selling cornhole, or at least that genre of people, because I do want to help. In the end, if somebody's giving me money to help me go play cornhole, I want our site and what I do to help them as well. So it's important for me to find a sponsor that I feel like I can contribute back to them and help them. But if I do make pro, I will be looking for sponsors.
Well, if there's anyone that's watching, hopefully there's someone watching, or even listening on the audio side, check out Shawn Farrell. Got it right that time.
Yep.
But to check him out, because like you just do great things, and the other thing, like you said, you help out the younger players, which I think is fabulous, because a lot of the ACL leagues up here are now starting to get into having a junior program, and we've got a couple kids up here that I call them the next Gore kids, because they're when you go to a tournament, they're finding that open board and they're practicing all their different shots, which I think is just, it's great to see.
Yeah, 5 years from now, these kids that are playing now are going to have some ridiculous shots, and they're going to be at such a high level. It's going to be crazy. So I'm getting in at the right time, and I put a lot of work in. I set out in my driveway and I practice all these things and all these different stuff, and I put all the time and effort into it. So, nothing's been easy, and if I make it, there was a lot of work involved. So even when these kids watch these things, I try to tell you, you gotta put that time in. Nothing's gonna be given to you. You gotta, if you don't put the time in, then it's not gonna happen for you.
Well, exactly, and that's a big thing. I know our friend Bernie kind of got a little trouble with one of his posts that he made, and he'll be coming on again to talk about that. But it's just, you got to give that time, and you got to put that commitment into to wanting it. You don't want to have it just to, I got an ACL Pro jersey. That's all you need to do. But you got to put the time in, and you got to go to these events and really show.
Yeah, I mean, if I get the jersey, then I'll be even more committed. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I just made it. That means I'll put more time in. That means I'm gonna put more effort in and more and give it. Like at the end of the year, if I make it and I make my rookie season, I'm gonna give it everything I have, and I'll see how I stack up.
I think, like I said, I think you've got everything you need to get, and I've just got, speaking of everything I need to get, I need to get to these sponsors that are now rolling across the bottom there. Octane Cornhole, octanecornhole.com. Discount code CORN gets you 10% off of any of their bags. I've even heard some of the merchandise, like one of these here down and back jerseys, to help me get out to some other stuff. Then jccornhole.com. Jamie was out in California at Spencer's. He said we don't need to talk about how he did. We won't, because that's just how Jamie does. But still no discount code from Jamie. So Jamie, you got to really work on that. It's been like 3 years now. Like, we got to get one. Then, as going to the bottom now, SierraHome.com. If you're in Edmonton, Alberta, check out Darren, Sierra Home. He'll go and check out your house, do all of your, before you want to do renovations or whatever, or he'll tell you where to store your best spot to store your cornhole boards is in your house. And then csccornhole.com, where you can get your ultra bags. Biggest thing, get your ultra bags.
Go get your ultra bags. Absolutely.
You got your ultra, you got your fire, they've got octane, they've got any bags you see on the American ACL website, you'll be able to get them through here. So check them out. And Shawn, I don't think this will be the last time you're on the show, because I know you're going to be doing more traveling, and we're going to bring you back on to talk about all your other travels. And I've heard you might have to make 2 trips to Canada this year.
All right.
I think that's what I'm hearing.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Hey, nothing is official yet.
Yeah. Canada has become my friends, and I would absolutely love to support a Canadian Open and go up and play again.
Exactly, and I hope, and this time I'm going to get the chance to actually stop and talk to you more than just saying hi as you're walking by, because I was just sitting. Maybe I'll get to play this time.
Hey,
I've been getting a bit better, so I'm actually hitting the board now. So I'm throwing 7s instead of 5. So that's all it is. So thank you again for coming on, and for everyone else, watch out for those players throwing gas. He throws ultra, but he will kick your ass.